Welcome to Supply Chain Horizons, our video podcast series that looks at crucial issues facing global supply chain teams. This video podcast is sponsored by Logility, a leading provider of supply chain solutions used by more than 1,250 companies in over 70 countries around the world. You can access this podcast and many others by visiting logility.com. Just click on the library link. So let's get started. I'm Corinne Bursa, a Vice President at Logility, and I'd like to share with you some enlightening conversations I've been having with supply chain innovators and industry insiders. Today's topic is vendor-managed inventory. We started our conversation with Ron Burnett, a product director at Logility, on the topic of vendor-managed inventory. I really would like to get his perspective on how do we get VMI right. I'm going to ask him to share some of the best practices that he's seen in working with hundreds of companies in a variety of industries. So, Ron, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me, Corinne.
Maybe you can kind of review some of the things that are really important in laying a foundation for a collaborative VMI program.
Well, Corinne, VMI is just like any other process. What you need to be able to do are some key areas around demand planning. How do I look at information that I'm receiving from my buyers? How do I then use that information to set my inventory targets, and how do I manage that in a multi-echelon distribution and manufacturing network? And then how do I make sure that I'm managing that information to be able to ship to my customers when they need that product? And one of the things we want to share is how do you set that foundation? And I think there's some key elements that you need to look at. So from a demand planning, I think one of the key areas that I've seen change over the years is being able to generate an accurate customer-level forecast. And I can't say that any stronger. It needs to be customer-level forecast. In fact, I'd like to even see it a little bit more granular than that, Corinne, and customer ship to, so that I can manage down to my customers' distribution centers, or if it's a retail partner that I'm dealing with, even down to the store level. So being able to generate forecasts down at that level means you need to have a very scalable system to be able to process a number of records and do that in an automated format. AMR Research did a study, I think it's about 3 or 4 years ago now, that a number of supply chain solutions were going to have to be re-implemented because they weren't down to that level of granularity. And I think that's been happening over these last 3 or 4 years, and it's accelerated with this new economy that we're all dealing with.
Okay. I'm listening to what you're saying, and I'm hearing I've got to have a customer-level forecast. Are you telling me I have to do a customer-level forecast for every customer that I serve?
The answer to that is no. You're probably going to be doing collaborative VMI with the 20% of your customers that are driving 80% of your business.
All right, that makes sense. So around demand planning and forecasting, are there other things that we need to be aware of that the former VMI practices really didn't address?
So initially, VMI was driven off point-of-sale data. So that was a real leap forward as opposed to using shipment data, which has a lag time. I was now able to see what was happening at the cash register if I was doing my VMI with a retail partner. But what I was really missing out on were 2 key elements. One was around new product introductions. So what were the plans of my partner in introducing products, and what impact would that have on me being able to provide that product in a timely manner, and understanding what their buying habits were going to be. So solutions such that use attribute-based technology to help both drive what I'm going to sell with these new products, and then help adapt that forecast based on point-of-sale data coming back through, really help a company, a supplier, do a better job of monitoring that initial impact of new product introductions and making changes to forecast and production plans much sooner than in a typical lag process that was deployed back in the early days of vendor-managed inventory. The second activity that I think is very key is the impact of promotional activity. If you look through all the old books that are out there, there really was no mention around promotional activity. And so sometimes companies did a good job on this, but it was only because my partner told me they were going to run a promotion. There was nothing built into the process to make sure that information was delivered and delivered in a timely manner. And by having that in a timely manner will now allow the supplier to do a much better job of delivering those products when they're on promotions. That impact of promotions also has a big change or potential change in what's happening on the supply end, Corinne. So for example, I may be getting this large promotion from my customer, and I may not have enough capacity to actually make the products at that time. So I have to start invoking alternative strategies to make sure that I can deliver the demand when my customer needs it. So it could be that I'm looking at a pre-build situation where I now have to build inventory early in order to make sure it's going to be delivered on time to my customer. Or I may be looking at alternate sources. So the ability to say, normally I get it from plant 1, but now I don't have enough capacity there at plant 1. Maybe I have to look at plant 2 or maybe a contract manufacturer to get those goods. And so by having that visibility up front, 6 months, 9 months out, allows me to put these plans in place and allows me then to deliver the goods in a timely and effective manner.
So Ron, obviously, the next logical question would be around how do I optimally manage my inventory? Because that's got to be a part of the fundamentals or getting the basics right before you really launch into an aggressive VMI program.
I think in today's market where the CFO is more interested in inventory levels than they've ever been, you couldn't have asked a more important question. So how do I model my inventory investment across a multi-echelon inventory structure? And by multi-echelon, I mean both from a distribution perspective where I might have multiple distribution channels, warehouses, distribution centers, etc., as well as multi-echelon from a manufacturing perspective. Basically, what we want to be able to do is take a look at products as I'm managing against all my vendor-managed inventory locations and making sure I'm setting up targets that are going to help me achieve those goals that I've basically written into a contract with my partners. And one of the more effective ways of managing inventory and cost in inventory is using postponement strategies. And postponement strategies are typically done in a manufacturing environment where instead of making a product all the way to the finished goods state, I may hold it back as some semi-finished state, which allows me to very quickly deploy that inventory without a lot of extra cost being involved. So I'm not pushing out finished goods inventory before I get those demands. And it's also going to help me from a logistics standpoint, Corinne. I'm not moving product to a distribution center in anticipation of demand. I'm waiting until the demand is actually there. I think it also helps on the obsolescence side. By not moving product all the way to finished goods immediately, I can wait to see where those demands are coming from, then deploy that inventory into the proper channels. And especially with companies that have fast turn products, it's very important that we're not making too much of the wrong stuff.
Let's bring that all together, Ron. I know that you've put together 5 steps to ensure collaborative VMI success. Tell us a little bit about what those 5 steps are.
Okay, Corinne, I think there's a very safe and sure path to collaborative VMI success. And I start out with number 1 is selecting the right trading partner. So that first time you're going through the collaborative VMI process, make sure you're working with a customer that has similar business values to you. You're going to be sharing some information with your trading partner that can be very sensitive. And so you have to make sure that there's a joint trust between these two organizations. If you don't get the right trading partner up front, you're going to run into some issues as you continue down the collaborative VMI process. Number 2, be flexible. You may have in mind some certain goals and objectives. There may be other goals and objectives that your trading partner may have. So make sure that you understand those goals and objectives and be flexible and be able to work with with that trading partner on what some of their goals might be that might be a little bit different than yours. Remember, one of the Achilles heel of the original CPFR was its rigidity. So you need to make sure you maintain flexibility as you roll out the collaborative VMI process.
So, Ron, what's number 3? What's the third step?
I think the third one is just document the expectations. Make sure that they're clear, definable, and measurable goals. Make sure that the impact of these different plans that you're putting in place are understood by your customer, that you're going to increase their service level from 95 to 97%. And if that includes there's going to be an increase in inventory for a short period of time, make sure that's defined and understood as you're rolling out these goals and objectives. Understand the data is step number 4. What information can I rely on from my trading partner? What information can I rely on myself internally that I may have? So are we going to use point of sale data in this process? How do we manage new product introductions? Is it one trading partner does it? Is it a collaborative nature? That would be my objective. I would want that to be collaborative, making sure that I can manage that process. How do we get the baseline forecasts in place? How do we plan promotional activity? Being able to review replenishment orders by your trading partner. So here's what I'm planning on shipping to my trading partner. Let the trading partner come in and review that and make adjustments to those replenishment orders. It's so important that you get the basic understanding defined first before you move to step number 5, automate where possible. And it may sound simple, but it's really not, because if we don't do those steps 1 through 4 correctly, then we're automating the wrong thing. I think one of the other key elements of collaborative VMI and this automate where possible is the exception-driven nature of the process. I'm dealing with, maybe 20 to 30 of my customers as a supplier. It could be hundreds, thousands of different products that I'm actually collaborating on. I don't have time every day to go look through reports or displays on my PC to actually see where I have problems. I want to be driven to where those problems are. So have an alert-driven process telling me where my forecast error has gone over an accepted tolerance. Tell me where my inventory is now out of balance. I have too much inventory in one location and not enough inventory in another location. Tell me where I'm not going to meet customer demand expectations. And again, one of the concerns we had back in the CPFR days, what is a very time-consuming process because many companies were doing it on spreadsheets. So we need that automated process put in place. I think those are the 5 elements that if you walk through these 5 steps with each trading partner and do a diligent job, you will have a successful collaborative VMI implementation.
Ron, thanks for taking us through these 5 steps. I think a question for our listeners today is, will you be ready? Will you understand the opportunity for your business and have the visibility into, as you said, the data at a customer or trading partner to really communicate and collaborate back and forth and make sure that your product's readily available on that shelf every time the consumer comes in looking for it?
And that is a good question, Corinne, because I fear a number of companies are still not set up right within their own supply chain solutions to enable a collaborative VMI process.
And there you have it. A very insightful look at the intersection of collaboration and VMI and how to ensure your collaborative VMI success. I'd like to thank Ron Burnett, once again, Product Director at Logility, for his invaluable contributions today. Ron, thanks so much.
Thank you, Corinne.
Supply Chain Horizons is sponsored by Logility, a leading provider of supply chain solutions used by more than 1,250 companies in over 70 countries around the world. You can find all our podcasts at logility.com. Just click on Library in the main navigation bar. And while you're there, we hope that you'll also download our white papers, which cover various supply chain topics. We also invite you to connect with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. That's it for now. Thanks again, and please join us next time for Supply Chain Horizons.